Hello everyone, and welcome back to Let's Play Pendragon Rising. We are at Chapter 2 now, the Feasting Hall. Dinas Emrys at night. Inside the earth ramparts and the high palisade, open fires burn in pits. Lots of people gather around them talking, laughing. Beyond, light spills from the doorways of thatch-roofed huts. One building rises above the others, the great double-peaked hall of the king, Uther, your father. Raucous cheering comes from inside. You remember this buzz of activity from when you were a boy. This is Noscalan Gaeth, the Feast of Winter, celebrated when the last leaves have turned and the livestock are brought to the valley. The smell of the peat fires, the chill of the air, the excited babble of voices. One night of brightness before the long dark falls. Over the water in Aquitania, your foster father Hector held to Rome and the ways of the Christ. He had no time for fires and dancing. 7 years, Art, says Kai, leaning against the palisade. Regretting coming back? Yes, I'd forgotten how cold it is, or not a bit of it. I'm looking forward to the feast. Or, I don't know yet, maybe tonight I'll find out. Not a bit of it, I'm looking forward to the feast. Da always said that a proper fight'd make you hungry, and I could eat a couple of oxen, Kai laughs, even cooked by your kin. Come on. He leads you towards Uther's hall, ignoring the stares of a small gaggle of the fort's children. You've taken the time to clean up, and both of you are in plain tunics by Aquitanian standards, but you're realizing that the cloth is finer and the colors richer than these people are used to, and you're beginning to regret having scraped the stubble from your chin. You're the only clean-shaven man over the age of 15. The pair of you stick out like sore thumbs. Well? Ready to be Arthur up Uther, son of the king? Asks Kai, as he steps up to the throng waiting to enter the hall. A few folk stand aside from you, recognizing your face. What if he dies, Kai? The question's been on the tip of your tongue all evening. Who? Uther. Kai purses his lips. Well, this place will need a new king, for one thing, and I suppose the whole of your Isle of Britons will need a new high king. What's the title here? Chief Dragon? Pendragon? Now, that would be a name worth having. I wonder how I'd get the chance at that. He catches your expression. Sorry. Well, he can't be all that badly hurt. They're still singing, if you can call it singing. Memory comes back to you. They sing when you die as well. They sang when Ambrosius died. But yes, maybe it wasn't so loud. You're right. Let's go in. So what's our stats? Still leader 60, ruthlessness 72. Okay. The long hall is lit by fire and the smoky gold of tallow candles. Great beams support the thatch above. Long tables stretch the length of the room, heavy with bread, meat, and jugs of honeyed wine. The room is packed with people dressed in their best, soft suedes and linens trimmed with fur. Bright rings, bracelets, and torques. Some of the men sport bruises or fresh bandages. Some sit propped against the stones of the wall, faces grey, nursing stricken limbs, clear adamant that they'll be present no matter the severity of the wounds. The people of Gwynedd are set for a long night of feasting. The high seat at the far end of the hall is empty. There is no sign of the king. Blaise, chief of Uther's druids, welcomes guests to the hall in his stead. Oh, here's trouble, murmurs Kay, but it's not the empty chair he means. Shouldering his way through the throng comes your half-brother Bedwyr, and the looks on his face is not one of friendship. He grabs you by the collar and pushes you up the wall. This is your doing. He's been drinking, that much is obvious. His cheeks are flushed. You can see Gawain watchful behind him. Come on, says Kai lightly, picking up a goblet. Let's just have a drink, eh? Bedwyr's eyes are furious, locked in yours. You were with him, he says softly. If a true Briton had been there, Uther would not lie bleeding his guts out on the bed linens, you piece of Roman filth. How do you handle this? I punch him. You can't let him treat me like this in front of public. The feast doesn't need this kind of display. I'll try to reason with him to calm him down. Or, I know he needs someone to rage at right now. I'll let him have this victory. He'll feel better for it. Well, we're not much of a warrior. Diplomat. I would like to punch him, but... Let's try to reason with him. You pitch your voice low. Think, Bedwyr. We're in the king's hall with his friends and allies. I know you're angry. I know you're worried for him. But just think. Would he want this here in public from you tonight? Bedwyr grits his teeth. You feel his fingers flex on your throat. You're aware of Kai, off to one side, considering his goblet like he might be about to bash in Bedwyr's skull with it. Leave it, you say. For tonight at least. Bedwyr holds your gaze for a moment and nods. For tonight, he relaxes his grip. You're aware of Kai's eyes on you as your half-brother stalks away. That man really needs to learn to relax, says Kai. He passes you a cup of wine. Damn, I like Kai. Yeah, I was expecting that. Diplomat and leader. So we're profiling more towards a leader-diplomat role. Let's hope we won't have to get in a fight. A couple of cups of honey wine in, and Kai is clearly enjoying himself, laughing with two local girls. No doubt giving them some account of how he'd chased off the Saxons by himself. He'd be equally at home in a palace or a pigsty. The atmosphere's too thick for you. You tap him on the shoulder and tell him you're stepping out for a moment. Outside, people are still laughing and drinking, but there's more space, more air to breathe. You wander for a bit, keeping back from the fires, just trying to soak up the atmosphere of Dinas Emrys, trying to feel like you're fit in. Not that you ever did, not really. You're at the back of the long hall when movement catches your eye. Furtive movements, out of place, a shadow creeping round the back of a hut. It's the large hut with the two spearmen posted at the front of it, Uther's hut. You draw your belt knife and thread softly across the packed mud. The figure has stopped and appeared to be digging something out of a bag. They haven't noticed you. Calling out for help now would just make them run. You step forward, one pace, another, and then you recognize the figure. Emrys? He starts, guiltily, and drops the rope he was carrying. What? Who? You take a couple of steps closer. Emrys, it's me, Arthur. It's definitely the Wanderer. There's no mistaking the lanky frame. He peers at you, puzzled, and then you watch relief spread across his face. Oh, it's you. I'd heard you were back, but... Emrys, what are you doing? The king. He's wounded, and from what they tell me, he needs proper attention. I'm sure I can do something about it, but the blasted idiots at the door won't let me in. They don't know a thing about medicine. It's all herbs and hand-waving. Can you help me? Scholar, musician, traveler, poet. Emrys spent his time poking his nose into everything and anything, building models out of sticks, grinding rocks to powder, and, on at least one occasion, setting fire to the building he was sleeping in. There's no doubt he knows a lot, but you're not at all sure you'd trust him to fix a gate, let alone the king's body. Blaze's druids have treated many battle wounds before, and they'll be at the king's side. On the other hand, Emrys has picked up bits and pieces of knowledge from everywhere. You wouldn't put it past him to know a bit of Roman medicine, but there's no doubt Uther and Bedwyr would object to it. Alright, I'll distract the man at the door and you sneak inside. Or, let me talk to the guards, perhaps I can get them to let you in. Or, the druids know what they're doing. This isn't the first time Uther's been wounded in battle. I actually don't know. I think this might be a decision also between the old faith and the new faith. But you know, if he dies and we don't do anything about it... Alright, I'll distract the man at the door. Okay. We'll try it. It's swift enough work on your part. You head back to the long hall and snag a jug of honey wine and 2 goblets. It's Noskawan Gaef, you tell the man guarding Ufer's hut. You're allowed a sup at the least. You might be only newly returned, but they recognize the king's bastard, and they're grateful enough for the drink. Despite the wanderer's gawkiness, he can move quietly enough when he wants to. If you hadn't known that he was creeping in through the door, you'd never have noticed him. It all starts to go wrong when you hear the voice of the chief druid, Blaze, approaching. He has others with him, 2 dark-cloaked figures, presumably more of his order. He eyes you, puzzled. Arthur? I thought our friends deserved a drink, you say. Shame to be the only ones with duty on this night. Aye, he says. Well, there's work to be done. I think Prince Bedwyr would be none too pleased to see you here, lad. Let's get back to the hall. You try to delay. What of the king? The taller of the cloaked figures pulls back her hood. Red hair spills out, framing a hard, pale face. It's Vivienne, the Lady of the Isle, the leader of the old faith among the Britons. If anyone can help Uther, it's her. If you stand aside, up Uther, then perhaps we can answer your question. This is Vivienne. She is not to be crossed. Of course, lady. You follow them into the hut. No one challenges you. You hear Blaze gasp. What is this? Emrys, the Wanderer, is standing over the king. He has a knife in his hand, and there's blood on the blade. He swallows nervously. Ah, this doesn't look good, does it? Oh my god, what have I done? In short order, Bedwyr has been summoned. The Wanderer has been dragged off on the guard, and Blaze pulls you out of the hut and into the darkness. I can think what led you to involve yourself in this, he says. I'll not tell Uther nor Bedwyr, not yet, because I think this was likely foolishness on your part rather than malice. But realize your place here, boy. Bedwyr will use any excuse to kick you out into the darkness. This is my home, you say to him. This is where I was born. I have as much right to be here as any of them. Then, by the spirits, start using your head, lad. You realize that Bedwyr could be king before the night is over? Now. Oh, find somewhere to be, somewhere not here. You feel his eyes on you as you make your way back to the long hall. Well, that was stupid. But increased our cunning somehow. I don't know why, because we fucked royally. But still. You stand in the doorway of the long hall. Kai is pretty much where you expected him to be, surrounded by girls and holding forth with a cup of wine in his hand. It might be trouble later. You can see that 1 or 2 of the men are eyeing him with distaste. Still, Kai is old enough to look after himself. A grey-haired man wrapped in an impressive fur cloak pushes past you and then stops, catching sight of your face. Ah, you're Uther's bastard, are you not? There's heavy torque of twisted gold wire around his neck. This must be someone of note. You incline your head. Yes, I'm Arthur. We've met, he says. You were knee-high to a goat, and Ambrosius was still alive. Ambrosius, Uther's brother, who died when you were small. A man who you remember being as kindly and calm as Uther is sour and quick to anger. You still can't place this guest, though. He chuckles. Aaron, he says. I'll not blame you. It has been a long time. King Aaron of Dyfed. You had no idea he was even invited. You bow politely to him and offer him the formal words of hospitality that any visiting king should expect. He smiles. That's more courtesy than I've had in this hall of late. But tell me, how is your father? A voice comes from behind you. Better than he has any right to be, awake and complaining. You turn. Dark hair, dark eyes, nut brown skin. It's Morgan. Of course it's Morgan. You realize that this is who you've been seeking out, unconsciously. This was the face missing from the crowd. She was so much a part of this place that her absence has been like a missing limb. Where have you been? The words are out of your mouth before you fully thought about them. Attending the king, she says. With my mother. I saw you, even if you didn't see me. Of course, the second hooded figure with Vivian. You have taken up your studies then? You're a priestess of the Isle? In training. 5 years now, she says. I'm almost as much of a stranger here as you. King Aaron clears his throat. Forgive me, it seems I'm distracting from a meeting of old friends. Please, lass, let Uther and the Lady Vivian know of my best wishes for his health. You make hasty apologies to the king. He chuckles and waves it away, moving off through the throng. Well, says Morgan, 7 years, and now here we both are. You're taller. You step back and look her up and down.